Welcome to Tales from the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Mick West. This is part 2 of a 2-part interview with Michael. And part 1 was episode 37, which is all about his experiences with UFOs and alien visitors. Part 2, this one, episode 38, is going to be all about his interest in the QAnon theory. So, here's Michael.
Let's talk about Q. So there's two things. One thing I want to say real quick is there's a lot of people in the UFO community that don't like the Q community or think it's nonsense. And it's like your chemtrail community. You got one guy that thinks it's contrail, one guy thinks they're poisoning us, and everybody in between. And then there's people in the Q community that don't want their name squashed with some guy who just told Mick West he was a doctor.
You're going to get in trouble.
Right. I don't care either way. I'm just telling you what my experience. I just want to tell whoever's listening is my experience of both. That's it. You do what you want. I don't represent anybody. I'm not giving any message. So there. The other thing I wanted to say as a joke and half true is that we're going to talk about Q here. Is I'm a good swimmer. I am afraid of heights. My car is working properly. I'm happy as hell, and I do not own a red scarf. And now we can talk about Q. So Q's popping as of last night. What is your familiarity, or what do you think Q is? Because there's a lot of, it's not a terror organization. It's not even an organization. What do you think Q is? Or should...
Well, from what I know, QAnon is the idea that there's this guy high up, or a group of people high up in the government who are trying to organize essentially some kind of internal resistance in the government to the deep state, and for some reason they've been dropping all these clues on 8chan for a while and kind of explaining what was going to happen, and that there's supposed to be some kind of big storm, I think they call it, where they will sweep away the old order and, I don't know, bring in a new utopia of some sort. That's just my general understanding.
That's pretty good. I don't know about utopia, but absolutely.
Well, yeah,
so
a better system.
Taking the power and giving it back to the people. Something simple like that. Getting the old cronies out of there, draining the swamp, that type of thing. Absolutely. That is what's happening. A group of patriots that are taking back what they consider the deep state. Is, you can use words. I'm going to keep my explanation on a simple level. I may personally think there's more to things, but I'll try to be, when I know something is said by Q or fact or something, I'm just speculating. I want to try to be clear about that, because I do a lot of speculation that may not be true, but in the sense that I don't know if it's true or not yet, but it's interesting to think. So Q itself, it's been there about 3 years. It was October 2017. And my relationship with it is I saw it like right when it came out in October, because it happens to be my birthday. And I was on the internet for something. I thought, wow, that's really weird. But I immediately thought it was like a game, like a role-playing game or something like that. I wasn't really that interested. And I just kind of went on. But then I saw it kept popping up. And then I started looking into some things. And then on and off. But in the last 6 months, I've been watching a lot. As far as what is Q is, there is no person that's Q. Q is has several meanings. One is that it's a Q level clearance, supposedly. Some of these things are my opinion. Some of these things Q actually says. They use the letter 17 because that's the 17th letter. That's like what they call a com. So when you get involved in Q, they have these clues. We call them comms. Like they're clues that let you dig. But Q is also like a question. Like Q very rarely says anything. Q doesn't say there's a Loch Ness monster and Bigfoot, and doesn't get into almost any conspiracies really at all, in the sense that it's just asking questions. And then you go dig. The person goes dig. And then they have a group of anons or autists that translate kind of what it says. And then Q either confirms that it's true or not.
But why?
Well,
why would he do it that way?
Well, they're changing that now. It's getting a lot more clear now. They originally started because of security clearances. They're starting to tell the truth, and they were, in other words, go look over here yourself and see what you find, and then look over here, and then people would come up with that. So that's how they started. But now they're getting on the nose. So I agree with you in the beginning. You're like, well, that's a lot of work. Why don't you just tell me what it is, right? One of the reasons they also just don't tell you what it is in their story that the end story is pretty bad, or the truth is not digestible at once. So they're kind of doing it right and taking back in a pace. And it's not going to be a long time, but they're doing it in a pace. And then they show you the progress. And everything that's happened, there's a lot of what they call Q proofs, over 300 of them now, where Q will post something and then it will happen, or something will be connected. Q says, I think it's 10 people, 7 you would know, and then 3 you wouldn't. Like some are military and some are civilian. So the group that's in the what they call the white hats that are, somebody's online right now going, you're fucking the whole thing up. That's not how it goes. You can look for yourself on the details of it, but this is the idea. And that POTUS, the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, it was chosen for that job because he was an outside billionaire that could not be bought to do this. And his com is Q++. And how they confirm that is they show pictures all the time of places that you could only be standing right next to the president. So those are Q proofs. And they have people just digesting, trying to see, did that photograph exist before and all that. And as long as it comes from Q, it's been very consistently accurate. There's no outside comms, meaning I couldn't say that's a Q thing. The information has to come from Q or they discredit it. Doesn't mean you can't speculate and look at things, but they want the story consistent for everyone. So not getting too deep in how it works, to give you an example of how something like that may work, did you watch the State of the Union last night?
Some of it, not a lot.
So we're watching the State of the Union, and you, of course, know who Baghdadi is, correct? The terrorist that Trump killed, the first terrorist that was in the hole, busted through the dog with the dog.
I don't remember it exactly, but let's go on.
So it was a major terrorist that Trump killed, and they had and the dog was the one that led the charge, and the dog went to the White House. Well, one of the victims of that terrorist was a worker, like a healthcare worker, a church gal, and she was forced to be his wife for 500 days, and was just everything. I don't need to get into it, but everything that could be done to a person was done to her, and he killed her, and even the other wives said she could have escaped, but she chose not to because he would seek retribution against them. So she stayed there, not to anybody else hurt. Anyway, her parents were there. The name of the operation, which was never revealed as far as I know, was her birthday. And it was called Task Force 814. So they killed Baghdadi years later, and in honor of this American, they name it Task Force 814. So just for fun, you go to Q posts and you type in, because there's like 3,800 now or more Q posts. You go to post 814 and it says, watch the speech. You're like, what? And this is written in February of 2018. And then right above it, it says, this post is for you and nobody else, basically. I could quote it for you, but it's actually what it says. It says here, it says, you have more than you know. This is why we're here. Great job, Patriot. Watch the speech. We are talking to you. This proof is only meant for you. That's just bizarre. Like, because when you see
that seems really vague to me, though. That seems like it could be anything, and you just like something eventually happens that fits that one thing back then.
Well, I think
why didn't he just say in the State of the Union in a certain date like that this will happen, or this means this? It doesn't make any sense that he would just do these extraordinarily vague clues.
Well, it is in a sense. I guess you could say that if you didn't, because when you're learning the comms, like how to do it, and the 814 just goes, wow, that's interesting. Why would they say that? And then why would it say watch the speech? And how could it be 2 years prior? It just seems odd. And that's just one example. There's lots of examples like that. There was always a current picture of George Washington crossing the river because it's a very patriotic movement. And there was one of the things that the way they communicate is misspellings. And people, one of the reasons they think that the president is involved in it, and his comm name would be Q+++, is because he's always misspelling stuff, and people always make fun of him, which just makes the tweet go crazy, so everybody can see what it is. There's several examples. Like Covfefe is the most famous one.
Yeah,
right. That's a communication act. If you look up the acronym Covfefe, that's a real thing. And what does that mean? Why is he doing that? And then you look at smocking. He's done that 3 times now. So Trump is the only president is taking down human trafficking. Q is not only is one of the big things is taking back our money from the people that are burning our money, but also human trafficking. That's another big thing that they're against. And they feel that the cabal, the elite, that's the same thing, that their power, their money, and human trafficking is huge. He just did a $30 million bill against it. He's the only president in the past 6 presidents. He's locked up more pedophiles and such. I don't want to get into pedophilia, but human trafficking is a big deal. He's helped take down Epstein. There's all that stuff. All that starts coming and fitting together. But smocking is it's where, I won't get into it, but it's where you paint your body when you're nude, and it's an act of debauchery. So he mentions that.
That's interesting. I think the thing with like QAnon, I've looked into it from time to time, and I would look into something that people claim, like you just talked about there with the 814 thing. I haven't looked into that yet.
Now, by the way,
I'll have a look.
That's me digging. The Q has not confirmed that.
Okay, so this is just your personal theory about 814.
That was my personal theory, saying when I saw it based on how I look at things. As far as
I think, like, with this, you think that his the Q people, these 10 people plus the president, they're deliberately doing it in a way that only a few people like you will understand, and that most people won't, because it would be too problematic if lots of people understood it at the same time.
Just the opposite. So they want everybody to understand it, but they're starting slow. So as they're making it easier, as I said, it was more cryptic in the beginning than it is now. So you'll see things happening. For instance, we knew when Trump said wiretapping, you remember in the beginning before he was president, he'd used the term wiretapping.
Yes, he thought that his campaign had been wiretapped.
Everybody made fun of him because there's no such thing as wiretapping because we don't have wires. But wiretapping is a spycraft term, and he was being wiretapped. And we knew about that wiretapping before the news, and now it's true. He was being spied on. And we, along the way through the Miller investigation, it's very political. I usually let people, I don't get into politics, so I let them do all the solving on those ones. I like the weird stuff. But all those things, every step of the way, one of the things is trust the plan. In other words, it's going to get a little hairy. You're going to see them go up against the president. And each and every time he's been exonerated, and you'll keep seeing it. We knew about Hunter Biden before the news. A hunter becomes the hunted. We knew that it wasn't $50,000. We knew it was billions of dollars. And you'll see that all come out. By the way, there's a huge, I don't know if you'll like this, a huge Alice in Wonderland com reference thing going on. It's pretty interesting.
So, like, you could say all these things that they all came to be true, and you knew it ahead of time. But I think some of that could be just kind of backfitting explanations of things that happen. Could you now say something that you know is going to happen in the near future that you can confidently predict is actually either going to be revealed? Like, so you say you know things ahead of time. What do you know now that will happen?
Say this is clearly my opinion. My opinion only. This is not Q. This is my opinion. I believe that.
Well, I mean, your opinion is great, but like, what in the whole Q thing is definitely going to happen in the future? What has Q told you, the Q community, and all these other people? What do you all agree on that is going to happen in the near future?
We agree that as things get revealed, and they will be revealed at a pace that the people can take, and I believe, even if we look back on this conversation, you'll see that as we progress forward, there'll be more things revealed, as they have been. That there'll be lots of arrests of people that you can't believe are getting arrested, for one. Like the deep state I call it the deep state. I don't have another term for it, but there's a lot of powerful people that have done a lot of bad things for a long time, and that will be revealed. Okay. And you'll see that unfold in many different ways. The first things that we're going to see, which are more vague, will be deaths, resignations, and public health issues. And you'll start seeing that. Like right now, you'll see Les Wexner. He's going to resign. Do you know who Les Wexner?
I don't know who that is.
He is. He's the head of Victoria's Secrets and the Limited brand. He's a multi-billionaire. He gave Jeffrey Epstein a $70 million apartment and said he didn't know.
Yeah.
He said he didn't know who he was.
That's kind of a reasonable guess that he might resign.
Okay,
But I think we're talking about something more significant. Like you're saying,
so
there's going to be
down,
arrest. Is Hillary
down the
Clinton's going to
future,
be arrested? Type thing. Is that going to happen?
I don't know exactly yet, but down the road there will be arrests of public figures, like for sex crimes on a massive scale. That you'll see
Right.
that they're that and not just that, but also money crimes or power crimes.
That's a reasonable prediction. So, like, what kind of time frame are we talking about here?
That I don't know, but I would say I get the feeling sooner than later. And I know that sounds weird. I don't know. I don't like to do predictions. Q has not said, Q is not a predictive thing like that. It's on a short term building to the long term. So I'm not speaking for the Q group. There will be mass arrests. That has been said. That there'll be arrests. That they won't be able to walk down the street anymore.
Right. So if we come back in 5 years and we talk about this,
I would say we could. If we could come back sooner than that. If you see something interesting, maybe there's something to it.
Let's say we come back in 5 years and none of that's happened. Sure, like, the head of Victoria's Secret has resigned because of his associations with Epstein, and some people have died, and some people have gone bankrupt or whatever. But there hasn't been this big mass wave of arrests of high-profile figures for pedophilia. If that hasn't happened in 5 years' time, will that change your opinion of things?
Oh yeah, I would be out before then. I would need to see some progress, in a sense, which I've so far to me has felt like there has been.
Okay.
But if that were to stop, now there are times that Q goes black, but it's usually for days. It's always been for days, and there's usually telling you he will. Either they're on the run, meaning they're doing stuff, or it can't be done for whatever reason. So that's always been very short term. Or
so maybe we should.
Also, they had a problem in the beginning. They kept taking down the sites because people would put these horrific things next to it, and it was just horrible. So I think they've worked that all out where they have a 8-coon or where they can just do it and it's not being attacked at all times.
Yeah, I guess posting on 8chan might not have been the best choice because 8chan just has all kinds of stuff there.
Right. I believe they've kind of got away from that. So that
right.
Now there's different places to look at things. And there's different ways that I look at things, and I don't believe everything. I'm not just like diving in. Oh yeah, they're eating the baby faces and dancing around. You know what I mean? There's got to be proof of these things.
Right.
So I think that another prediction of mine, and also I will say that Q has mentioned this strongly, is Anthony Weiner's laptop. That there'll be some things on there that will be not your regular crimes. Let's put it that way. Not where you go. Oh well, yeah, of course they do that. There'll be things that you go.
Does his laptop, was it confiscated by the FBI or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the police department and I'm sure the FBI also, yeah.
Right. And
he was arrested for a sex crime with the text.
Well, yeah, he was texting pictures of himself to people, which is a bit odd for a person in his position.
Of course, everybody, in the conspiracy world, it all goes back to Hillary Clinton and George Soros. And of course, his wife was Hillary Clinton's aide. And, there's all kinds of things like that.
Well, Soros is pretty old. It's quite likely he will die in the next 5 years, I think, because he's so old. Clinton probably won't, but you think she's going to be arrested? You think Clinton will be arrested in the next 5 years?
I don't know. I don't want to say that about anybody. To me, if you're going to arrest somebody, you need 100% rock solid proof. That's not something to mess around with.
Yeah.
But it seems like it. But that has not been said. There's not like anybody's name that has been put. That I'm not speaking like that.
And what about
I have a question. I have a question for you. Just so you can kind of see how do you? We're like I'm working backwards. I'd rather work forward. Like say, okay, if I saw something, how would I get to the conclusion? Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm going through watching funny cat videos, and I see Bill Clinton in a blue dress. Right? Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, the painting that Epstein had of Bill Clinton. Yeah.
The first thing I'm thinking, well, it's a spoof, and everybody spoofs on Bill Clinton, wouldn't they? Or it's Photoshop. But then you find out, well, it's an actual painting, right? Mm-hmm. So then you dig. This is how you dig into the rabbit hole. You may not like it, but it's how we get deeper in the rabbit hole. So we go, well, it's a painting, but it's a real painting. Now, that doesn't mean that he posed for it either, right?
No.
Anybody can paint anything they want. So you dig, and then you go, well, you want to be dismissive. You don't want to just say that he posed for it, he's a freak, right? You're saying that, but it is a real painting, so that takes you further. He didn't pose for it, so it kind of takes you back. Or maybe, who knows? There's no proof that he posed for it. And they're making fun of the blue dress that Monica wore. Well, wait, they're not making fun of that. That's not true. It's an actual dress that Hillary wore, because then as you're looking, you see that actual blue dress. Well, maybe the artist just saw her in the blue dress and used that blue dress. That doesn't mean anything. But then he's wearing red shoes, which don't go with the blue dress, but certainly go, we don't have to go into that. It's every pedophile scenario, they're wearing red shoes. There's a whole nothing but red shoe pedophile thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason they wear the red shoes are horrible, you can imagine, but they wear red shoes.
I can't actually imagine why they wear red shoes. I don't know what.
Because they're standing in blood, basically.
Okay. All right.
And it goes back. It goes back. That's not me. That you can go on the FBI.
You think wearing rubber boots would be more practical than wearing red shoes? Is it a symbolic thing?
I don't know if practicality is in their mind at the time that they're doing it.
Okay.
But anyway, so that I'm saying symbolism. Yeah. Right? And one of the things Q does say is that symbolism will be their downfall. That their communications, in other words, they communicate through symbolisms, and once I tell you what that is, and you can kind of see things. But
so this deep state people, this conspiracy type people, they are communicating in symbols with each other.
I don't know if it's with each other or it's just something that the way they do it. But whether, like for instance, Moloch, the owl, is always a theme. The Bohemian Grove owl. So that's Bohemian Grove's a real place. It's a weird place. Why would all those people from different parties go there and pretend to sacrifice things? And Ron Johnson did a great thing on it. He doesn't believe they're sacrificing anybody, but it's still odd for these guys to be out in the woods burning an owl, right? But that goes up there. That's a symbol, an ancient symbol that's used. So you might see something like that, just like the red shoes, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to, so you see the red shoes. It doesn't mean anything. And then you look in the corner and there's a little picture of JFK, which is always a conspiracy theory thing, in the corner. You're like, wait, it's on the bookshelf. Wait a minute. And then you go, well, it's an artist, right? She must have done something. She made paintings. So you look her up, right? And she did another painting, and it was a conspiracy theory painting. It's George Bush with the Twin Towers and paper airplane. So maybe she's just a satirist or whatever. She's like weird art. But then you look at her name. What is her name here? Her name is Patrina Ryan Clyde. So she's probably a real person, right? She sells the paintings online. You can get them prints or whatever. So Patrina means keystone, Ryan means little king, and Clyde means dress. And keystone's a big thing in the Q community. And all of a sudden, the name of the artist says little king in a dress. It's just odd. Like those.
Yeah.
Now that could be a coincidence. That doesn't even mean anything. That's a throwaway. But I'm saying that's where your mind starts going. You're like, okay. That just seems
I can see it. But like you're saying, like this is where your mind starts going. But does that mean that it's right, or is it just the way your mind is working right now, in that you're seeing all these connections? But just because you're seeing them all, you're primed to see all these connections because you're looking everywhere. You're looking in the corners of paintings. You see an owl somewhere and it means something. You see like JFK, it means something.
I agree. But then you find out that Bill Clinton said he was on the Lolita Express 4 times when it was 26 times. Then you find out.
Actually, that's not true. It was actually 4 trips with a large number of flights.
Okay,
so I looked at the actual manifest.
Okay, 4 legs. 1 time on the Lolita Express. Then you see pictures of a 14-year-old Ray Chandler with him on the Lolita Express. Then you find out.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay,
but,
let's take.
I'd have to check that one.
All right, check that one. How about check out that Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea's wedding?
Yeah, I could believe that because they're part of the social circle. Epstein was knew the Clintons, and Ghislaine Maxwell was with Epstein all the time.
Yeah, she has a submarine license. Her dad, you know about her dad.
A submarine license? No, I don't.
You know about her dad?
No.
Well, you're from England, correct?
Yes.
So Robert Maxwell is her father, who was a big corrupt media mogul, who died on a boat named Lady Ghislaine.
Yeah, really? All these connections.
And he was also if I believe is if now I've read this in a report. I don't know if it's true that he was connected. Not like it's even a mystery, but he worked with the Mossad, the CIA, and the MI6, which he probably did because he was a media mogul.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I think he died like 20 odd years ago. I think it was,
But
or maybe
he
more
was
than that.
no doubt a very wealthy man.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
why would a billionaires be associated with a extreme pedophile?
well, there's one billionaire is being associated with another billionaire. They're just in the same social group, so I guess
Okay.
that's how it happens. But
All right.
I don't think her hands are clean of everything. Obviously, like she knew what Epstein was doing, and she was part of it to a large degree. So
So
doesn't
let's
mean
say
that you know
okay. All
much
right. Let's
beyond
go a
that.
little. Let's go some more factual further. How
Sure.
about having a breeder ranch in New Mexico where he's going to take? This is the New York Times report. Take an AI to alter about 20 females to seed the world. I don't know,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy
30,000.
stuff.
Huh?
I think
Are they
billionaires
wrong
like
about
to
that?
think. Yeah, no, it's billionaires like to think they're going to save the world. If you look at Elon Musk, he's doing everything he can to set up a colony on Mars because he thinks he's going to be the savior of the human race by setting up a colony on Mars. Bigelow, as you know, he wants to get it into space. Paul Allen has got like space.
Let's quickly not associate them with where we're going next. What I'm saying is this is a billionaire pedophile who has a breeder, was described as a breeder farm. It wasn't like he was trying to fix genetic diseases in females. And I agree that I know you're saying the complex of being a billionaire and being able to do anything, but that's not helping the world in the sense that's like taking over the world. That's a little different. I don't think his
Sure.
intent was to help the world. I don't think you keep young girls. And the other thing is like you would think that would be a huge story, wouldn't you? I mean,
Well, I
no,
don't think he actually had like a harem of young girls there against their will at
not
this
yet. No,
breeder farm
they were
to
building.
make
They
the
were
new
building
human
it.
race.
That's what if you read the New York Times article, it also mentions some very high up. I'm not calling anybody out. This is the New York Times saying this. I won't even say their names. You can read it yourself. But very high up, probably people you know that have been on the Joe Rogan show, AI and transhumanists and roboticists
Right.
that were on his payroll for a lot of money. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know their connection. Maybe they never met the guy. You know what I mean? And you figure that out. The story says more, but I'm going to say it's odd that somebody would do that. Though I do know science has to get research money and maybe anybody can donate. I don't know how that works, but there was a connection there. So it wasn't like he was just, I'm saying that he was using real smart people to do this. It wasn't like he was
Sure,
just
yeah.
trying to figure it out.
He there's a thing like back in the olden days where people would have things called salons where they would get a bunch of intellectuals and bring them around to their house and they would just chat, and it was kind of like a status thing in a way. And I think Epstein did this with a lot of people. He would bring people to his island and they would have big parties, and then Epstein would make some outrageous statement, and then they would ask, what is the future of AI in the world? So I think he kind of saw himself as being this super intelligent guy who was going to be a pivotal person in the future of humanity. But I don't know exactly how far along his plan was, or if it was even realistic.
Not even there. And I understand that. And every article I've read, it's the same thing. He actually wasn't. He didn't seem that smart. People said he didn't seem that smart, but he had money and they wanted it.
Yeah.
So
he surrounded himself with these people to try to get that thing.
But so, I mean, would you even if you were a scientist, would you go to a pedophile island for a party? I mean, it just seems odd.
I think at the time it happened, these people didn't really know the extent of what was happening. They knew that he liked young women. And one of the guys who was there was Lawrence Krauss. I think has had some problems.
Yeah, I don't want
of
to
his
say
own
names.
since
I
then.
love those guys. You know what I mean.
Yeah, my point of bringing him up, he gave an account of what actually happened there, and he said that they didn't actually go to the island. They went to the other island, the big island where the hotels were, and then they went over to the island for a party. So it wasn't this big thing where they were all in this big bacchanalia on the island all the time. It was just more this bunch of fancy scientists being gathered together for a salon, essentially, just showing off.
So let's say
Posturing.
that's correct with those scientists, right? It's just the way that works. So you have his house in Palm Beach, right? Or Western Florida. You've got the pedophile island. You got the $70 million apartment, and you got the Zorro Ranch. Those are his that we know about. And he did, I think, he had an apartment in France or something that they talked about. What do you think of will happen with are you familiar with the 2,000 pictures or cassettes and CDs of the females and the perpetrators that the FBI got?
No.
So that you can look that up.
They raided one of his places and they found a whole bunch of photos of young women.
And the perpetrator. It says women plus and then a blank and then
okay. All right.
So what's going to happen with those? And one of the things that's interesting is you don't really hear about that. And so that people would say, well, there's nothing to it then. To a conspiracy theorist, this means that's because a real investigation is going on. Like a real investigations, they do. But in his place there, and we can go into Prince Andrew and all that, that is where the Clinton painting was hanging. Maybe it was just a freak for Clinton, but he really had it. And you know about the eyeballs, all the World War I eyeball or two eyeballs. So he had a whole wall he bought all the prosthetic eyeballs from England from World War II. And he has a wall of prosthetic eyeballs. He has a stuffed poodle, his own poodle that he owned there. Right. So these are all real reported things, like the New York Times lady that went in after his first arrest. This is before the second one, but after his, when he was arrested and put in jail the first time in 2010. This is after that, but before now. And so she's just bringing up the story of her seeing banks of TVs that are in every room, even the bathrooms, and all these weird sculptures and shit like that, and kids everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you can look those things.
You say that there's a real investigation going on. So do you think that the Q group, whoever they are actually, essentially investigating Epstein along with Hillary Clinton and I don't know whoever the people are in Hollywood who are supposed to be involved with this? You think that there's a real, so to speak, investigation going on by Q that's separate from what the FBI is doing?
Well, only in the sense that the FBI is doing it, for sure. So let's just go with that as far as that goes.
Are the FBI the good guys here?
Well, that's what we're making happen in the sense that, we had Comey and you can just watch the news with the Comey and how we call that like the soft coup, and we're draining the swamp. So there's, whether you like Trump or not, it doesn't matter. We don't have to get political, but just the list of things he's done. He's done a lot of stuff. A lot of people hate his style, but it's really hard to hate his substance in many areas. Now other areas you can say you hate him. It doesn't matter. But he's done some good things. So whether he's in doing that because of his charge against pedophilia and human trafficking, which is way a bit worse than anybody ever thought, I don't know. But certainly the FBI is, because they said they are. Q just gives us clues. Now, is the FBI good or not? Well, the Comey part wasn't. When who General Flynn is?
I don't remember exactly.
He got perjure trapped.
I remember him. Yes.
Lying to the FBI.
He was part of Trump's team.
Yes,
wasn't he?
So he got perjure trapped for lying for the FBI without a lawyer. And Q said, "Don't worry, he didn't do anything." And turns out they lied and they altered his 302 and his documents. That's a fact. So he's going to get exonerated, just like we knew that he was a patriot the whole time. So that's a proof in a sense there. Mike Rogers, do you know how Admiral Mike Rogers is?
No.
He was the head of the NSA, who happened to be the 17th head of the NSA. So they're on 17 is like Q, right? In our sense, NSA. He told Trump that he was being spied. He broke protocol and told Trump that the administration was spying on him as a private citizen in Trump Tower. That's what. And so his skiff was unsafe, and they moved it. Everybody was going to fire him, get rid of everything, and now 3 years later, it turns out they were doing that. That's a fact. I mean, that's true. They were spying on him, just like Mike Rogers said. So a lot of people think that that General Flynn and Admiral Rogers may be part of just because of their rank and their position. But that's the speculation.
You think they're part of Q,
or at least
group
connected,
of people?
Part of the white hat group for sure. In other words, the good guys that are trying to clean the FBI, clean the DOD, the politicians. Now, I loved your forward, by the way, about your book when you're talking about how I didn't want to read your book because I didn't want to be like, oh, you're going to crap me and all that. I didn't know who you were. But I read your synopsis or whatever, your summary of your book.
Uh-huh.
It was great. It was
Right.
great. It's great. So let's forget aliens and crazy crap for just a second. You believe, like everyone does, that the government lies about certain things
Sure.
because I hear some people say, "Oh, there's no way they could pull that off." Well, yeah, they can. We see it with the weapons of mass destruction and other things like that. I mean, they can create a story for sure. You would agree with that, right? So
To a degree, yeah.
to
Yeah.
a degree. So we're just taking that degree further. We believe that not only are they doing that, they're doing it a lot and they're doing it all the time, and that they all know about it to a certain degree.
But
And
it's
we
not
think
just the government doing it. You think there's this kind of this war going on within the government where there's all these people,
well,
like the head of the
there is now.
NSA,
There is
on
now.
the side of good, and then there's all the deep state people who have the entrenched interests of pedophiles at heart.
And if you take it far enough, perhaps. If you took that far enough, perhaps. Um, but we don't need that. That's people are going to get turned off by that. If that's true or
Yeah,
not, we'll
yeah,
find
yeah.
out. But you certainly would want somebody stealing your money, right?
Sure, yeah.
If we,
No
if
one
we, let's,
likes
just, let's just say it's a laundry laundering scheme and nothing
uh-huh.
else. Right?
The
Everybody can.
government.
The government,
All right.
the government, right? Whoever's that deep state is, that there's political people in the government that are doing serious pay for play. For instance, even if you take Barack Obama, he gave $350 million to a publishing company that then wrote him a check back for $65 million after he retired to buy a $15 million house on the ocean. When he tells you the world's going to end in 10 years, you're like, that doesn't sound right to me. I don't think they're telling me the truth. Why would you buy a $15 million? Every politician has a $15 million, $10 million house on the ocean with armed guards and gates, but the world's ending and we're not allowed to have guns. That's what makes you think, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Doesn't
see what you're saying.
they
But
they,
we could argue about that, though. I mean, like, we could get into like, the sea level isn't actually going to rise that much anyway, and like, nobody's really against having armed guards with guns as part of gun control. It's there are
okay.
these things we could get into these things, but I don't think we
No,
really have time to argue
and
about everything.
I agree with you, and I would say that if everybody was just reasonable, all those things would handle themselves in about a day. It's just that the only way to present a side now is to scream as far to the side as you can and then try to figure it out. So that's the way it works.
Yeah,
But um,
yeah.
so do you, as far as, let's just talk about Epstein for just a second, because
All
to
right.
me, that's like a provable thing. That was a real dude that did real bad things. There's evidence of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was doing those bad things with him? Yeah, who are those 2,000 other video people? Who's visiting his island and why that many
Hmm.
times? It just seems really odd. And then let me ask you this: what do you think about Prince Andrew? I mean, that's a real one that was on the news, and obviously Bosch, his story is not true. Whatever it is, it ain't true.
Yeah.
Interview. I mean that.
Well,
What do you
Prince
think about
Andrew, he essentially partied with Epstein, and who knows what actually went on at those parties. So it's I don't think you can prove anything really. We've got like a photograph of Prince Andrew with his arm around somebody. We have at least one woman who claims that she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew, but that's difficult to verify, obviously. And Prince Andrew is a bit of an asshole, and
that? Right.
no one really likes him. And he thinks of himself as being a mover and shaker in the world, and he's obviously got connections that he can exploit, being the Queen's son. So who knows what's going on? We may never know, but I think that's the thing. We can't say that something is definitely going on because we don't know
Well,
what the facts are.
it seems like so good. So then there's people involved in the Q movement or just people on the internet that they just want to know if that's true or not. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It,
well,
it seems like there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it might be, and we're just wondering why nobody's talking about it. And why did Amy Robach smash the interview? You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's 1,000 reasons. I don't know how network television works, and I'm sure there's money
yeah,
involved. But she literally says it's because they wanted pictures of the kids, access to the new babies, just to for.
right.
So that makes you think. And then you have Hunter Biden on the money side of it, who she also interviews and just drops Alice in Wonderland crap. Like, I mean, he calls himself Snarky, the hunter of the snarks. He calls Trump the Cheshire cat. He says he feels like he's going down a rabbit hole. I know these are all expressions. And then his dad says that the Trump rally is like, whether it's the rally or he was commenting on a Trump speech that, the impeachment. He was commenting that it's like looking through the looking glass, up is down, down is up. He does like the Alice in Wonderland phraseology. It's just very interesting.
It's the Alice in Wonderland is the most referenced book of all time.
Well, certainly you
It's
think.
like it's not because like I don't think it's because like it's this big key to the universe. It's just that people there are certain things like Through the Looking Glass or Down the Rabbit Hole that people talk about just as figures of speech. It's just entered into figures of speech. If you actually look at people have actually done studies of this. Every single novel has some kind of Alice in Wonderland reference. Yeah, pretty much. And it's not because they have to. It's just because it's part of the language now. This book that's got so many good things that you can.
I agree with you. So let's say that's true. Then you take the several. I've taught you about different ways that I see things, like whether it's a misspelling or it's a this or it's a news article or a reference to something. So then you have Trump misspell little Adam Schiff, right? So we immediately think it's a misspelling, so it's a and he spells it little, Liddl, like Alice Little.
Yeah.
And so immediately you're like, oh, is that a reference?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
And then you also find out this is Adam Schiff also connected to Ukraine, which we didn't know his banking family. That's going to come out.
Right.
You'll know. All right. Adam Schiff, banking family, Ukraine. I do not own a red scarf. If you dig a little bit and you find out there's a shipping company that started all this corruption called Little in Ukraine. So it's like, is that leading you to look for that name? Is there a reason that he misspelled that? And so it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that every time Trump misspells something, you could probably Google it, whatever he misspelled, and something would come up that you could make a connection with. Because there's so many things in the world that it's very easy to make at least a one-step connection to something from that misspelling. But I think we're probably gonna have to wrap this up because we're running out of time here. But it's been very interesting. I really
one last thing I want to ask you though.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so. Because it kind of does it all together. So, are you familiar with Project Looking Glass?
Yeah, remind me. Is that the remote viewing?
Sort of, yes. So, are you familiar with Montauk, like the Stranger Things show?
Oh yeah, Montauk. I'm very familiar with Montauk. Yes.
Okay, so the Montauk chair is it's a technology for navigating spacecraft. There's different stories. Some people think it came from something else, but basically, it's a thing to sit in, and you can see probable futures.
Okay.
That's how it started. They originally used psychics. This is the story. This is the lore. I'm just telling you the lore, and then I'll tell you how it connects to what is seen. So they originally used psychics, but then they would get hurt, so they used children. And this was before, and they had a very low percentage. It was 20, 30% probability. But now that they've learned how to do it with AI, they get really close to 80, 90% probability. So it's called Project Looking Glass. So that's the lore of Project Looking Glass based on the Montauk chair, and that's always been in UFO lore. It's always been out there. On Joe Rogan, and I've studied Bob Lazar just because it's cool, and it's UFOs and the whole thing. He mentions, which I've never heard, he may have, but I've never heard him mention before, that he referenced a paper that referenced Project Looking Glass on Joe Rogan. Now, he didn't say he ever saw it. He just said he saw the reference to it. That's all he said, right? To Project Looking Glass.
Okay.
Then Q does drop the word Project Looking Glass. So what does that mean? I don't know. But that
maybe it means Q watches Joe Rogan.
Maybe. But the reason I want to say that or end on that is that Q, this conspiracy wacko things I'm talking about or what I'm talking about, they don't get too crazy about that. That's just what you can derive from those things. But one of the craziest references that I saw Q do that is said Project Looking Glass. I thought that was really, really interesting. It may have a completely different meaning for what like your Alice in Wonderland references. but I just thought that was very compelling. So that one I'd like to put out there in the universe, and let's see. That may
Okay.
be something that would, because
Well,
that
when
would
we
be super significant in your mind
yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
had, if they could lens the future and see probabilities. I'm sure that would be something. Oh, real quick, also, what do you think about? I know memory, but what have you ever looked at a list of Mandela effect stuff and go, "Oh my gosh, that does seem weird."
Well, I've looked at it, and some of the stuff. Yeah, I don't remember certain things being a certain way, but it's like what did Darth Vader say to Luke at the end of Star Wars? Things like that. Lots of things people misremember. I I can't say I'm
But
very convinced by the
no,
Mandela effect.
and you may be true, may be correct about that. It just seemed I happen to be one of those people, and I
All
don't
right.
believe all the Mandela effect. I only like the ones that trigger me. Like most of them don't, but everyone will go, "Wow, I thought it was mirror, mirror on the wall. I didn't know it was magic mirror." Like, but you know what I mean. But I do remember, strangely enough, out of all the crazy things I'm telling you, I am one of those people who remember Nelson Mandela dying from dysentery in a
Oh,
prison,
really?
having a state
Interesting.
funeral, and then I remember his wife like suing, and then like writing and winning, and then writing a book about it. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I was shocked one day when I go, "Oh my God, he's on TV." I was one of those people. So I don't know if that's all connected or how that works or whatever, but I'm on the side of something happened, or it seemed like it, or it could just
Yeah.
be tricky, bad memory.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Interesting. Fascinating stuff. Well, this has been a very wide-ranging conversation. It's very interesting, and I would like to have you back in 5 years' time,
Okay.
if not sooner, and we can see if what would you say is a kind of a good timeline, a good time horizon for you to expect something to have happened that would completely confirm the Q hypothesis for you.
It already has.
Well, but the mass arrests type thing, like when do you think that's
Mass
going to
arrest
happen?
was certainly yes.
Right.
Anybody of notoriety, when it happens, it's going to happen. You're not just going to arrest one person.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, you couldn't, because if they truly are connected, you're going to have a plan to do
Yeah.
that.
So what I'm
You can't.
saying is, we said 5 years. If nothing happens in 5 years, we don't have this mass arrest in 5 years. You'll think that perhaps there wasn't something to it. So what
I
would
think
be?
before then. I think before then.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out when I should put on my calendar to give you a call.
Oh, you can give me a call next year, and
Okay.
I believe at the a year from now
Okay.
that there'll be significant, and I don't know about mass arrest. There'll be significant revelations about what's going on.
And you think
Whether
it will be clear to everybody at that point?
it'll be clear, many of the subject matters will be. For instance, you will find out very quickly, and I believe this year, that there's a lot of politicians taking a lot of money from a lot of countries that's our American money and our taxpayer
Mm.
money. And I don't mean like the typical politician taking the bribe. I'm talking about crazy amounts of money and corruption. I think that will happen this year. I think
Okay.
what Trump has done is he's got to get through the impeachment. He had to get through the State of the Union. Once he's reelected, then there's 0 point. Like right now, the Republicans were against him, the Democrats, the news media. YQ, by the way, simply it's a way to communicate to us directly without the narrative, the mainstream news narrative. So we just get around that. That's all
Okay.
we're really doing. We're getting around narrative. But I believe that he's doing as much as he can, good things for the world, plus things for us. And once he's reelected, then there's no doubt, right? You could say people don't like him and this and that, and it's all crap and whatever. But once he's reelected, then it will. And when I say reelected, I mean landslide reelection. I think that's going to be something. And then the gates will open after that, because he will have accomplished getting rid of many of the roadblocks that don't let it happen. So I would say next year after reelection would be a good time that some crap will happen, like that oh, maybe there's something there. For
Okay.
sure.
Well, I shall
I think before that
mark
too.
my calendar for next February, and we'll see what has transpired since now.
Well, I got to say, this was an absolute pleasure and a joy. I want to reiterate, these are my opinions. Whether it's UFO Twitter, please no hate mail, QAnon. I'm just saying what I think. You can better yet, look into all this stuff yourself if you want to, or decide that you don't want to because of this. But you've been great. I have to tell you, just personally, it's almost a joy to watch how calm you are when people attack you. Like, it's, how do you do that? Like, do you ever drive 100 miles
Yes.
an hour in your real life, or do you?
No, it's years of practice. I think I don't let it bother me too much. It's
Good.
just
I'm proud of you for that. And I don't know if you noticed, but every once in a while I'll defend you. I'm like, dude, it's just his opinion.
yeah.
You know what I mean? They're
Thank you.
crazy. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. I really
All
do.
right, thank you, Michael. It's been a very interesting conversation, and I look forward to following up again in 1 year's time. So
Sounds
thank you.
good. Thank you.
Okay.